Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. I am your host, the Conn Man, and with me, excuse me, with me this evening, I have one of my good friends, my man Chris Jose LeBron. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, my guy. How's everything?
Everything's great, folks. For those of you, losing my voice. For those of you who don't know, when I first started out doing uh, this podcast thing, I didn't know anybody from a hole in the wall. You know what I mean? And so I put myself out there like I was a basketball historian. And that really got changed after I ended up sitting down with Sam Jones, one of the greatest players ever played in the NBA, 10-time NBA champion, and all that. But anyway, I think I stopped my man, Chris. I think I stopped him. But anyway, he said, man, yeah, you can come on the show. And we did the show. I think the show went pretty well. And again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me the opportunity when, I was just starting out and I really didn't know much. And I was just learning, how we do things here in the podcast business. And I want to give you my props for that. Now, everybody knows who you are. You have one of the best sports podcasts in the country, I feel, because I watch you guys all the time, and I'm honored to have you on my show. And when I spoke to my producer Key Williams, she knew who you was. Everybody knows who you are. But anyway, and also, folks, he's born and bred from New York City, and we're gonna talk about the next. We're gonna talk about your next. But Chris, for those people, those very few who do not know who you are, can you let people know what got you interested in doing the podcast, and let the people know a little bit about your grind and a little bit about yourself, so people can who are tuning in, which there'll be a few. Uh, let the folks know a little bit about yourself, my brother.
Well, I appreciate the introduction. It's probably the best intro I've gotten, so I appreciate that. It made me feeling, little feeling myself a little bit. But no, when I had you on, that was great because, like I said, you're a historian, and I love listening to stories, especially from an eras that I didn't get to watch. So the stories you told on that show, I still remember. So, I appreciate you coming on. But yeah, about myself, I've always been a hoop head and all that. Like I say, I'm from New York City, so that's kind of inbred in us to just, be in love with basketball and all that. But, I went to school, I wanted to be an agent, basketball agent and all that. So that was a dream of mine and all that. So I got my degree and I always, and things didn't go the way I wanted to, but that's life, that happens. But I said I got to figure a way to just be in sports, and in basketball. So I just figured things out, try to. I dabbled in podcasting probably before it was even a thing, and I would do like a live show with my boy, and we did it for a little bit, and we had some traction, but then we stopped because life happens, and then before the pandemic, I would say, to be honest, probably when summer 19, when free agency happened and Katie and Kyrie went to Brooklyn, I did a show and I was pissed that the Knicks they just it felt like it was the lowest of. I mean, we've had low moments in Knicks land, but that felt like legit rock bottom. That was like the lowest of the low. So started doing some basketball stuff and just talked about that and got some traction and all that and I just was like, all right, I'm going to go 100% into this. I'm going to put my all into this, and I got mics, upgraded my equipment, learned how to edit and all that, and it just went with it. I said, all right. And little by little, I remember, I don't know if you know Matt Babcock. He was, his dad was in GM was in the front office with the Bucks when they, for a long time, and it was there when they got Giannis and all that. So I remember reaching out to him and just say, hey, somebody had told me, reach out to as many people as possible. If they say no, they say no. And I'm someone who, if you say no, I'm like, I'm like a dog. I just, get into the fetal position. I'm like, all right. So and then that messed me up. But I just went with it, and he responded back, and I was like, oh, that was like my first real guest. And we talked about the draft. and all. Because I was entering the 2020 draft. I think right before COVID even happened. Talked about that. Talked about his journey as an agent and all that, and that show did really good. And I just said, okay, all right, I'm feeling this. And then I just constantly reach out, and people that heard that show, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll get. And it just started going. And this podcast started getting more popular, and people were listening, and people liked what I was doing. It wasn't just a typical fan podcast, like Be Too Fansy. It was more, getting into the X's and O's and all that. And kind of just went from there. And I just reach out to as many people and then network with so many great people, especially in that 2020. I did a lot of live NBA mock drafts, but a lot of guys who in the draft space, a lot of people would know before they got big. And I would just get 4 or 5 people and, 2, 3 picks each and all that. And we just took off and people watching people. So I just went there for there. And it's been that way just ever since. And it's been really fun to, interact with people, be able to network with so many people I never thought I would be able to interact with or, be in contact with. So it's been fun these last 4 years and all that, and just reinventing, how the podcast and all that, doing some new things, do creative things and all that. So it's been a lot of fun, man. I never envisioned to even get this far and all that. So it's been pretty. I've had my show on the radio, on Dash Radio, which is a big platform. I had that on for a few years on that platform. Like I said, I've been ranked worldwide. I had a little coffee ranked in the States. That was pretty cool. Even it lasted for a few days, but it was still top 200 in the sports category for a little bit. But it's been cool, man. This has been a lot of fun. And just like I said, to interact with people like you and just everyone. It's so much fun. I love helping people out too, man. It's just been a blast doing this, man.
And I want to again thank you because you were there when nobody else was. Like you said, a lot of times you ask and people say no. You know what I mean? But you were one of them that said yes. And now that my show is doing okay, everything's getting it's just going a lot better.
I see you working.
But something? You never forget where you came from and who helped you out. And you were there, and I'll never forget that. And I reached out to you to come on my show because, I reached out for you for me to come on your show, and you didn't know me from a hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and that's such a great thing. And before we get into the next, because I know that's what you're going to talk about, and we'll be out of here in an hour so you can catch your show. The next 7:30. So I'll make sure we're done by that. But what is your take on the NBA landscape as it is right now? Generally speaking.
In general, I'm probably more positive than most people are. I love I love basketball no matter what. It's an art. It's sculpted in different variations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are gonna like it, some people are not gonna like it. But to me, it's still basketball at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you got to get the ball in the bucket, right? And no matter whether you like the way it's being presented in today's era, is that's up to you, but it's still basketball at the end of the day. So for me, I know people get so mad with load management and guys not thinking that guys. I honestly don't believe that. And maybe you could call me crazy, but I think guys are going after. I just think teams are the ones that are holding back these players more than the players are holding themselves back. And that's just my opinion and all that. So I think the game's in a good. There's so much young talent too. Like there hasn't been an era where there's this amount of talent. I mean, even for me, I grew up in the '90s and all that. There was probably 1 or 2 guys that were truly skilled, and everybody else was just either just a defensive guy or a just a an enforcer type of. Now we got a bunch of guys who the 7th guy is just as skilled as the guy. So like there's so many and like people, there's no defense being played. I was like, yes, there's defense. It's just harder to play because guess what? All 5 guys can handle the ball. We got 7'4" guys who can handle the ball and shoot. How do you guard that when you have multiple guys? Like the Nuggets, they got like how many guys are 6'8" who can handle the rock and score? That's hard to do. Now it's like growing up, like there was probably one guy you really had to worry about. So it was easier to play defense and all that. Now it is harder and all that. And yeah, maybe guys, maybe a little bit more entitled. But listen, man, you making how much money? Feel yourself a little bit. So like it's $150 million gonna make you different. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
Who would it, right? I don't know why people get so mad at that, but I don't. The game's in a good spot. There's so much young talent. Every team is loaded with talent. Like a lot of and I tend to not look at the negative. Yeah, there's things they can fix up, but that's going to be in any era and all that. But I love where the game is at. The game is in a good spot. There's some young kids coming up that are going to be monsters. There's even kids in college right now that are going to be future all-stars and all. So I think the game's in a good spot. And then we know playoff intense basketball is always different. So like we seeing the physicality and all of that we all want. So we get that in the playoffs. We know with the guys that got to get ramped up because everybody talks about, and only anybody cares about is people winning championships. So this is where we're at. So let's enjoy it and all that. But I tend to just be more positive than most people.
My take is the parity. Now, except for Detroit, they're terrible. But for the most part, San Antonio, they're going to end up having the second and third pick maybe next year. So the parity is going to be so great. Look at the Houston Rockets. Look at Oklahoma City. Look at all these teams that are going to be so much better because they're so young. Like you said, the talent level is unbelievable. I think I watched the talent level, and like you said, the seventh man, eighth man is almost as good as the fourth, fifth man. And the way the teams now we talk about the offense and the defense. I think, like you said, with the big man who can now what they're doing is they're bringing the defense out because they can shoot the 3-point. So that's extending the offense, it's spreading the floor, and then you get guys who can do what they do, which is, man to man, you know what I mean? And to me, I love the game. I've always loved the game, but I think the game's like you said, in a great place. I think the talent level is only going to get better. I think the parity in the league is going to get better. And, just like, look what happened last night with Miami Heat. You know what I mean? They're down 2 players, and look what they did. They ended up doing some great things, against the Celtics, who were considered unbeatable, unstoppable. And so my opinion about the landscape of the NBA is that it's going to get better and better and better. And, I think, like you said, we should just appreciate the talent that we have. Now, before we go, I'm going to hit you with a hard question. And I'm going to hit you with something real hard. Who is the GOAT?
Who is the GOAT? Dreaded GOAT question. I always grew up, and it was always MJ for me. It's always Michael Jordan. And it still is. But I think LeBron has definitely made it a true conversation now, whereas before it was like, all right, it's MJ, and depending on, it also depends on the era you lived, because
Right.
If you're someone who grew up in the 80s, it might be Magic or Kareem. Before that might be Oscar. It might be Jerry West or someone. So like, and it's era dependent too. So like, and it's such a subjective conversation because it's really based on what your preference is, what era you lived in. Because and even for me, I didn't even get to really see. I remember more of the Wizards Jordan era than the Bulls because I was still young.
Wow.
I was only 8 when he retired in '98. Right, I was 8, and I was just really getting in. I didn't really like. I heard about it, and you see it, and like just from all the basketball watch, I'm like, he's definitely the greatest. But I know more about Kobe and LeBron. I've seen their careers, both of their careers more. But I would give it to MJ because slightly over LeBron. I think LeBron's the second greatest. But if you said he's the greatest, I ain't arguing with you because he has the most points of all time. He's top 10 in assists. He has 4 rings. I know people are going to be like, well, he lost 6 times. It's like, well, it's funny when they bring up the 6 times he lost. Would you rather him lost in the first round those years? He lost in the final round. That's not a bad thing. But for whatever reason, we tend to view that as a negative. Like, and I'm sure if Jerry West was in this era, we would do the same thing. Like, he was 1 for 9. but we still view him, man. He's a logo. He's great. We appreciate his greatness, and obviously that's taken over time and all that. But like, losing in a championship is, I mean, you lost in the last round against the Eastern Conference best team. That's not a bad thing, and we've seen the teams LeBron's had to go up against. It's like, all right,
absolutely,
yeah. So it's like, yeah, and I guess Jordan 6-0 in the finals, never going to a game 7. I mean, that's when he got there, he got the job done. So, and then
exactly. Now, I'm
gonna
give you my take. Here's my take. First of all,
14 years. That's impressive too, MJ. I know
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now I'm gonna give you my take, Chris. Even Michael Jordan said, "Don't compare me on who the GOAT is, because different eras." You know what I mean? Even he said that. So I'm gonna take that philosophy, and I'm gonna kick it to you my way. Now this is gonna be different than anybody or anything you ever heard. You know who the GOAT really is? It's Oscar Robertson. I'm gonna tell you why. You talk about Michael Jordan, billionaire, has done everything on and off the court. I mean, all his fundraising activities and what he's done for the youth and done so many great things. LeBron, his youth school and all the things he's done. But name one player that has done something for the betterment of other players. Think about it. For other players, not themselves or outside, but for the players who are there with them and who are going to come after them. I'm going to tell you why Oscar Robertson, and I'm going to give you a little bit of knowledge, my friend. Oscar Robertson in 1961, I know I'm going way back, way before you was born, but there was an All-Star game, the very first All-Star game in the NBA. It was at Boston Garden. And you know what happened back in them days, I'm going to give you a little history, is that the players, if they got hurt or injured, they had to pay for their injuries. They had to pay the doctor's bills. Yeah. They had to pay all that. And they could not go to another team. They were basically slaves.
There was no
for real. And Oscar Robertson, that day, 1961, 62, I think was exactly, televised game, All-Star game. Oscar went and got in front of all the players and said, look, we need to form a union, or we need to get together and look, we can't let this happen. And what they did was, an hour before the game, I think you know what I'm saying. An hour before the game, he said, oh, no. There was 24 players voted. 18 said yes, 6 said no. I know who the 6 are. I ain't going to mention their names. But anyway, but because of that, that ended up them getting benefits. The pensions were better. The playing facilities were better. All those things were better. And not only for them off the court, but on the court and for future players. And then what came up after that was free agency and Connie Hawkins and Spencer Hayward. I'm going to go into, I don't want to bore you all to death.
No.
To me, without what they did, there would be no Michael Jordan, no Dr. J, because they set the standard. They're the ones that went and risked the opportunity, because the owners at that time said, okay, you don't want to play? You can only play for one team. Back then, there was no trades. There was no trades, or very few trades back in the day. And so, in my opinion, if you're going to talk about the GOAT, to me, the GOAT is Oscar, because what he did set the standard for not only the players that were playing then, but for future players. So that's my little spiel on that. But anyway, getting back to that was my opinion. A lot of people probably ain't going to agree with me on that. But anyway, I know
a lot of people say that, and I can never get mad at somebody who says they think Oscar is the GOAT, because for those reasons he was a pioneer, like you just said.
Exactly.
Like,
there you go.
Free agency, like that wasn't a thing, and so like, if you say Oscar's the GOAT, I'm not going to be like, oh, how you're dumb. Like, no. And especially when you back it up and be like, this is why I think, and all that, everything he's done, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, okay. I'm with you. Even if I don't have to agree, but I know, I respect that, and I know what Oscar did. And just if you just look at the stat book, you're like, oh, triple double. You have a first person to get a triple double. Like, he's on there. He's on. If you say he's the GOAT, just like with Kareem, Kareem's basketball career might be the greatest basketball, just pure. If we're talking about basketball, he might have the greatest basketball resume of all time, and it may not
Exactly.
even
Absolutely. He
high
gets no
school,
credit.
college, pros, like
Exactly.
every level.
And
So
you know, now
so
you from New York, right? You from
yeah.
New York, born and bred in New York. Do you know Lou Alcindor, as he was called back in the day? He had two choices: UCLA or St. John's. What if he went to St. John's? Think about the landscape then if he had gone to St. John's.
It would have been St. John's would be national brand the way UCLA is. Like it
Exactly.
would be there because it
Yeah.
has the backing of New York, just like UCLA has the backing of California. You have those big brands, and you see it with Patino now. Like you feel like St. John's is getting that buzz back. But imagine if that started, 50 years ago, that the school would be at a different level right now. But yeah, that would have been crazy if he chose
And
to
you
stay
know,
in New York.
as you know, St. John's is a city school, so
Yeah.
it's a lot more difficult. I mean, they don't have the campus setting like a lot of other colleges have. You know what I mean? So it's a different type of school. St. John's is a little different, and I think bringing back, well, not bringing back, but Rick Pitino, I think he's going to do some great things with St. John's. I think they're going to be up there for years to come because just the way that he recruits and the way that he does his thing, and that is to me that's a great thing. Now, what I also want to do is change the subject a little bit. Now, you're from New York, so obviously you must know a little bit about the Rucker. A lot of people out here probably don't know about the Rucker. I know about the Rucker. I done been there a few times, never got to play, but I was there. I seen the Rucker. I know what it was like. Can you give folks a little bit who may not know exactly what the Rucker was, and maybe you could, give them a little bit of knowledge.
I haven't been to the Rucker in a little bit, and that's definitely going to change. I'm definitely going to get back. But growing up, I spent a lot of time with my cousins. Used to live in the Bronx and all that, and him and my uncle kind of, showed me the game of basketball and made me into a Knicks fan and told me about the history and all that. And the Rucker was definitely something that I was taught about at a young age. And I used to go when I was younger because it was more closer, when I was, staying in the Bronx a lot. But it's just a historical platform. Like you go to the Ruck, like it doesn't matter if you're from New York, you're from Boston, you're from California, Texas. I say the Rucker, you like, oh, that's where all the greats for Dr. J, played. And I mean, you got people just hanging from everywhere, just mesmerized and all that. Where Kobe Bryant went, when Kobe came here, that was like the biggest thing in the world. Like that was like, yo, Kobe Bryant, this is one of the best players in the NBA, and
Right?
he's like, I need to come to the Rucker and show out. So it gives you that extra cred, like like whoa, oh, Kobe's at the it's just the added. Like KD came here and all that, so it
Yes,
is
yes, he showed out.
showed out. Like, and then when you put a show on, it's like if you're in front of you're at the Garden in front of 30,000. Like it's just that atmosphere and all that, and it's just different and all. And I'm mad at myself that I haven't been there in a while, but it's just it's a special place to be in. I always advise, and everyone always asks me, "Oh, how's the Rucker?" And I'm like, when I was like I said, when I used to go when I was younger, it was different because I haven't been there in a minute. But it's definitely, we have a lot of great, historical, basketball courts and all that. But that is obviously the creme de la creme. Like that is the elite. You go there. I mean, to get on that court, you got to be special. And
You have to be.
I just saw
You have to be.
who's the number one player in the country, show out, and it's a different type. You play different. You play different because you're going against dudes that are, it's New York, it's East Coast, man. We're a different type of basketball we're playing, and you get that grit, you get that toughness that maybe you're missing because you're playing, down south, or you're playing, AAU, and it's different out here. So it's just it's a special place, a special environment. It is just, it's a landmark. Like we have so many landmarks in New York, but that is like the Mount Rushmore. That you say Rucker Park,
Exactly.
everybody who likes
Now,
basketball
Chris,
wants to
have
go
you
there.
been to Dyckman Park?
Dykeman, yeah. It's been a while too. There's not been a Dykeman and all that, but that's another. Dykeman. They have so many crazy tournaments. I know people who play tournaments and all that, and it gets intense and all that. The cages. There's another spot. There's so many. There's so many spots.
There is.
Right by the bridge, under the bridge, I think it's called. Right next to the Brooklyn Bridge is another. Court right on the view of the skyline of New York City. The city is another spot where you see a lot of things going on. A lot of Zion was here, maybe 2018 and all that. He showed out in a dunk contest, and all that. So we got a lot of great spots here for basketball and all. Especially like it's getting nice out now. You're gonna see You're gonna see some tournaments start rolling up, and I'm definitely gonna be there this summer because I've missed out on. But this summer is gonna be different. I'm definitely gonna be showing out. Probably maybe do some live shows. Try to interview some guys. But yeah, we got a lot of great spots.
I hear, and Chris, kind of, I'm kind of like envious of you because you're right here, right there in New York City. I'm out here in New Bedford, Mass, so I don't get to see as much as you uh, or the accessibility that you have to see all them great players. So obviously, I have to go to New York or go to Purchase, New York, or go and go see a Stephon Marbury or all that. I mean, I had to go out there because one of my boys was, as I told you before, was the NBA referee. So whenever he went to New York City, I'd be right there with him. And, Mike Jackson, I can go on and on and on and on. And that's how I New York City, when you go, it's just different. You see, you're from there. But when you're not from there and you go, it's just a different feeling. The atmosphere, the environment, the crowds. I mean, it's just different. It's just different. I mean, Boston's cool too. Don't get me wrong, but New York is New York. I know Chicago, New York. Those are I know, but I mean, it's just a phenomenal thing to be able to go see and witness all the great players. Of course, I'm old school, and I remember that. Now, before we get into the playoffs right now, there's a reason why I got you on the show because I know you from New York. Name your starting five all time Knicks. I got mine. What's yours?
Our starting five or just the five best?
Five best.
Okay, five best New Yorkers: Clyde, Pat, Bernard, Willis Reed.
Mm-hmm.
I could go to Busher. I could go. Man, that fifth spot's tough. Oh man.
It's a tough one, huh?
My fifth spot, man. I'm not gonna put Brunson in there. He's not too. Oh man, that fifth spot. I'll go Mello. I'll go Mello since
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I'll go Mello in that five. Maybe it may not be the true best five Knicks, but that might be the five I have to rock with.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong. Here's mine. Earl Pearl Monroe, Walt Frazier,
Yeah, I should have put Earl in there.
Bernard King,
And Bernard was
Willis
so
Reed,
good. Bernard was
and
so
Pat Ewing.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I can't complain with that. That's good.
That's
Earl
not
the
too
Pearl,
bad.
yeah.
That's not too shabby.
Earl the Pearl. You go David Busher. You can go
Busher,
Melo
yep.
at that five. I feel like they're four.
Melo?
We had the same four, and I think that's most people's four. And the fifth spot is usually like that's kind of era dependent too. That fifth one is like
Right.
all right. If you're a guy like me, maybe you go with Melo because that's the most frequent,
Right.
most recent, guy that we saw and all that. Yeah, I can't go wrong with that.
Now, let me ask you another question. Is there something that maybe you want to bring out? I mean, I'm honored to have you on maybe something I didn't ask you, or maybe something that you want to put out there. We're going to find out how people can reach you and watch your show in a little bit. But is there something that maybe, I didn't ask, or maybe something that you want to, let the viewers know about you or about, before we get into the next, because I know we got to get into that. But is there anything else you want to, say anything that maybe I didn't ask, or maybe something that you want to get the word out?
Well, I'm sure we'll do plugs and all that after, at the end of the show and all that. But my thing is, if you're a basketball fan, and that my thing is, if you're a basketball fan, just enjoy it. That's really all I tell it to everyone. Like we all, as a basketball community, sometimes we could be really negative, especially on social media, and I really can't stand that. That really bothers me because if you actually sit down and just watch the games, a lot of what you feel is not really that. Like you sit down, you're like, all right, this game is. I'm complaining about stuff that's not. You enjoy the intensity and all. Like it is like everything you say on Twitter or whatever, Facebook, Instagram. It's sit down, enjoy the game because a lot of times the things you're complaining about it's just narratives, and we live in a narrative based society, and especially in basketball, everything's because even people watch the morning talk shows and they base their opinion, they base their beliefs off opinions off things that are just not true or just fabricated. So my thing is, if you're watching, enjoy basketball. Sit down, watch the playoffs. There's been some good playoff games. My Knicks, Sixers, they were having a dog fight with the Sixers. You just saw a great game with the Lakers and Nuggets. Last night, you just saw an upset with the Heat. Sit down, enjoy it. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Just enjoy the game, man.
So right, like you said, with social media, people can sit back behind their computer and punch all these things, and they don't know. I mean, what I think with all the analytics, they take away the personal influence because we are human. We all make mistakes. It's a human game. We all have flaws, but the way you watch on social media, they think people can't miss a jump shot, they can't miss a layup, or they can't miss a call. It's too to me. It's too technical. It's like just let me play. And me, because I'm old school, I don't need no damn analytics. When I look at eye test, you can see. You don't need no damn analytics. You can see for yourself the talent level. And to me, the talent level is absolutely phenomenal. You got Wembanyama, whatever the hell his name is. Look at that, 7'4". Look at the things he's doing. Exactly. You look at, there's so many players who are so big and so tall, and the way they be able to hit the 3-point shot, and they extend the defenses. And NBA is tough. And you realize that 1% of college players make it to the NBA. And here you got people who are criticizing these damn players. And rightfully so. People make mistakes, but you never hear me say NBA player sucks. You may hear me say they had a bad game, or they made a bad choice, or made a bad decision, or maybe they're not shooting well. But you'll never hear me talk about an NBA player that they suck, because they don't suck. They do not. They may have a bad game. You may not like the way they play. You may think they don't play defense. But let me tell you something. They're humans. They have family. They have friends. You think they want to go out there and embarrass themselves? So to me, as a former ball player, I've been out there every day, and I busted my ass, and I gave it my all. Sometimes good, sometimes not that good. But it's just the way the game is. It's the way the nature is of the game. And people, I think, are so damn critical. And with the gambling aspect of it too, because now you worry about gambling to make you money.
Yeah,
you take away the human element. And to me, as I like the origination of the game. I just like the game at its natural space or entity. I just like watching the game, the talent level. You know what I mean? And I just get so upset when I watch and hear the comments before the game, after the game, or in the morning. I get so upset, man. And most of them never even touch a goddamn basketball, and that's my opinion. But you know what I mean? I'm keeping it real. I just that's my take. But now that I got you here, and this is the playoffs, and before we get to your Knicks, let's talk a little bit about the Western Conference. Oh man, I gotta talk about my Lakers. What's your take on the Lakers Denver series?
It's been a really good series so far. I mean, obviously the
Yeah,
Lakers blowing the game in game two and all that, and having it in the grasp, and letting it go late was tough and all that. But and I know people are going to be like, "Oh, Denver has beaten them 10 straight and all," but a lot of those games have been really close and all that. It's just a couple possessions that have cost them, but that's the difference between being the Nuggets and the Lakers right now. It's a couple possessions, and that's in
that's
playoff
it.
basketball. That's how games have been win or lost. So for the Lakers, they have to figure out the little things, you know, just clean up a little. If they just do a few things, they could. This could be a tie series right now, and now they're at home with an opportunity to go up. But that's why Denver's so good, because they do the little things so well, and that's the thing that's sometimes not taught enough is the little things, setting screens, boxing out, and all that. The little things like that, that stuff you've been taught since you were 5, that still should be translated even in the NBA. The Lakers aren't doing right now, so they're at home today. I think they'll win this game today. I think they should take care of business because they've been so close, and I think they'll tidy up some of the things they need to work on. You know, you know, AD needs to be more consistent. Obviously, that's always been a thing offensively, and I even think LeBron at times gets frustrated with AD because he's like, "Yo, I'm 39," and I know that gets thrown around a lot. LeBron's 39, but he is 39. 39 is 39. Even if you're LeBron James and you're superhuman, you're still a 39-year-old should not be carrying a team, right? Like AD should
Exactly.
be doing more. And yes, he had his 30 points in the first half or whatever, first 3 quarters, but he didn't do anything in the fourth. And then
Right.
it looked like he was just getting manhandled. And this is a guy he's one of the better defenders in the league. He's an all NBA defender.
Right.
And it just looked like at times he was a little bit lost and all that, and getting bullied a little bit too much, but I think they'll bounce back. The role, and then you know how it is. Role players play better at home. Their role players haven't played great, so hopefully, most like we'll see what their role players step up at home and all that. They're gonna need Hachimura to step up, hit some big shots. They're gonna need some guys to step up and play a little better. They are missing some not important pieces, but with Vanderbilt would be huge in
Right.
this series,
Right.
just to be able to guard some guys, especially on pick and roll and all that and switches. He can be able to guard multiples, but that series is. I don't think the Lakers are done. I totally think they have a shot. Obviously, they need to win tonight, but I think the series is a lot closer, and these matchups that they've had with Denver have been a lot closer than I think people are thinking. So we'll see what happens. But the Lakers, they just got to fix up some little things, and 3 possessions, is the difference between being down 2-0 and maybe being a 1-1, or even maybe even being up, because even in game 1 they showed they had signs and just didn't have enough. But we'll see what happens.
I agree with you 100%. But and again, because the games are pressure packed because it's playoff time. But I think clock, time, game management, score is very crucial. And sometimes the players overreact, or because they're under so much pressure. Like we're going to talk about the Knicks Philly, the out of bounds play. We know about that. But I mean, I'm just talking about sometimes game management, like basketball 1-on-1. You never take the ball out of bounds underneath your own basket. Number one. That's number one. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that too because that's against your Knicks. So, I ain't going to say too much about that because, you are my guest. But anyway, I'm keeping it real as far as that's concerned. Now, let's talk about the Clippers. How do you feel about the Clippers? I mean, even Kawhi played the last game. How do you think they're going to fare in the series that they're in right now?
Oh man, the Clippers. I don't know what you're gonna get from on a day basis. Game one, no Kawhi, they take care of business. And then game two happens, and with Kawhi, got the momentum and all that, and they fall flat. So it's like this Clippers team is, you know, they have all the talent to be a championship caliber team. They got two high level wings that teams would kill for. Yes, they've been injured. They still have two high caliber wings and all that. Um, you would think they have the length to guard Luka and Kyrie consistent, and they showed in game one. I mean, they locked up the Mavericks game one day. Mavericks looked like this is a team that in the Mavericks that was world beaters. They won like 18 of the last 20 games. Defensively, they were playing great. They weren't playing defense for 3/4 of the season, and in the last quarter, they were locking up people. I think they were like a top 5 defense, go into the last quarter of the season. So they were on point. Luka's an MVP and all that, and they did their thing. Then game two happens, and it's just like, what just happened? But that's the playoffs too, because every game is different. Every game could be different. That's the beauty of the playoffs, that every game could be different. So, and the Mavericks locked up defensively and did their thing. So, now I don't know what Clippers team going to get though. I don't. Is James Harden going to be the facilitator that they need and all that? Is he going to be? And I think he was their leading scorer. I could be wrong. But I don't think you want James Harden being your leading scorer at this point of his career.
No.
You need Kawhi. You need Kawhi or PG to be that guy. So I don't know what Clippers team I'm going to get. Are they gonna rally up and lock up and stop Luka and Kyrie from doing a thing like the game one, or they're just going to keep missing shots like they did in game two, and nobody step up because So I don't know what team we're going to get, but they're going to have to figure it out. Westbrook off the bench going to have to do some stuff. He didn't have the greatest shooting game in game two, but he's going to have to play better in game two. Norman Powell's got to do something. This is a guy who's a bucket off the bench. He's a sixth man. He won the sixth man of the year last year or something like that. He's a six-man candidate every year. He's got to step up. Can you just give me 4 points? I mean, they need that. Especially on the road. Like I mentioned before, your role players need to step up on the road. So they're going to need their role players to step up big time. Especially with Kawhi, we don't know what Kawhi we're going to get. We see they're still bothered by the knee. So I don't know what Clippers team we're going to get. They could look like the best team. They're one of those teams. They could look like the best team in the world. They could look like, they're going to win a championship, and then they could look like, they could lose in 5. So they're just frustrating to watch sometimes.
They are. But I got one even more disappointing. The Phoenix Suns. I mean, they gave away the world to get KD. And then they got Beal. And then they got Booker. I mean, you would think, most people would think with that trio that they would be devastating. And to me, they probably are the most disappointing team in the NBA, because when they got them three together, outlook was like, they're going to the finals. I don't think they're going to get past this round. And it's so disheartening because they gave up the boatload to get my man, and he is performing up to his level. But Beal was averaging about 15 a game. Booker's doing his thing, but he's below his average. And they really have no bench, and they really don't have that much size. And what is going to happen with that? If they get beat in the first round? What do you think is going to happen to their team?
You're going to have to figure out how to get rid of Beal, because first of all, there was never a need for Beal. There was never a need. I think that was a Matt Ishbia, who's the owner of the Suns. I think that was just a power trip. Like, I just want to get the best players and all that. And Beal was someone he was getting injured. He wasn't the same player. So I don't get why they needed him. It just never made sense. I rather you have Booker, you have KD. You just surround them with a bunch of good, solid basketball players, and you should be good. Get some toughness, get some guys who are going to be dogs. The way we're seeing Minnesota, the team they're playing right now got some dogs. Come man, they got dogs. Jaden Daniels will lock you up. Anthony Edwards is a dog. He's not scared of Kevin Durant. So when you're going against it, and that's what's crazy is that Minnesota flipped. Last year they weren't that. This year they turned that up. They changed that mentality, and that's which is just it's impressive because last year I thought it was a disaster. The Gobert trade, I thought it was ridiculous and all, but Gobert got everyone playing in like high level, even got Cat playing defense. You know, Mike Conley is a solid vet. Mike Conley is as good as it comes as a solid vet. He's super underrated, super underappreciated. You know, so they're going to this is a bad matchup for them. This is a team that's just out physically. The physicality of the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, Suns are not built for it because they got Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, arguably the best player in the league. They got Devin Booker, arguably one of the best guards in the league. But that's it. That's all you're really worried about. I'm not worried about Brad Beal no more. He's not Bradley Beal, Washington Wizards, 30 points a game.
Right.
Of himself. So I'm not worried about him no more. You know,
You're right.
Who else I'm going to be? Grayson can get hot from time to time, but all right, that's it. You got 3 guys, 3.5 guys I got to worry about. Everybody else, they lucky to be on the team, to be honest. You know, so it's like, and one thing, listen, I love Kevin Durant.
Yep.
He's really one of my favorite players to watch for forever. Even when he went to Brooklyn, I was low-key like, man, I just love watching this dude play basketball. Like, he's just, you know, for seeing a guy 7 foot to do that. But I think he took the second or third most shots behind. I think Beal took the most shots last game. And I'm going to pull up. All right, yeah. Beal had 17 shots. Booker had 13. KD had 15. If you're a coach, Conn Man, what's wrong with that? You got arguably the greatest player, one of the greatest players of all time, taking 15 shots in 40 minutes. You
answered your own question. You got that guy. There's no reason he should be taking at least minimum 25 shots. 25. Minimum.
I'm not mad at
he's very efficient.
25, I'll live with that. I need you to take your shot. I'm not trying to lose because you want to be unselfish and all that. He only had 2 assists too, so it's not like he's facilitating and all that. One thing that Kevin Durant has not done that I need him to be, he needs more of that. He doesn't have enough dog in him. You are one of the best top 5 players in the NBA.
Yep.
You need to show it. Sometimes he don't. So it's when he was with the Warriors, when he had Steph, when he had Clay, he was the alpha. He felt like he was the alpha. And now it's ever since he left that, whatever happened with Draymond, it felt like it's taken something out, and he's just not been the same. He hasn't been out of second round since then. And I don't feel like he's, especially in big moments, we saw last year what happened. They got washed.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, this could be a sweep. And I can't live with KD taking 15 shots and having Bradley Beal take more shots to him. Unless Bradley Beal is going off, then there's no excuse why KD has the 3rd most shots on the team.
There's no excuse.
No.
And another thing too, Chris, is the fact that KD, man, he don't like to hear no criticism. He's always trying to come back when he hears this. And like you said, have a dog in you, man. That's what you do. You shut people up.
He let social media get to him, and
yes,
and which is crazy.
Don't do that. With that talent, talent speaks for itself.
Media bully him his way out of Golden State because that forced him to. I don't think he ever wanted to go to Brooklyn. I think he really wanted to be a Knick. I'll always be like he wanted to be a Knick, but because he didn't want to go by himself. He went with Kyrie, and then. I think he just listens to social media too much, and that kind of, sways is what he wants to do and all that. Like, you are one of the best basketball players in the world. Do what you think is the right. Don't listen to Joe Schmo, who has. Don't listen to those guys. Don't let those guys, affect. Like, if you wanted to go to the Knicks, like you should have went to the Knicks. If you're gonna go to New York, Conn Man. No disrespect to Brooklyn. And listen, that's the borough I was born in, and I got love for Brooklyn. But if you're going to have to pick between New York teams, you're gonna pick the Knicks, right? Even if they're down. But it is what it is. He made his decision, and obviously it didn't work out and all that. But I feel like his focus is too much. I love his response. I don't mind that he responds, but I feel like with he listens too much, and then it kind of affects his decisions, what he wants to do, and all that. And then he regrets it because it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just listened to my gut feel. You know what they say? Listen to your gut. I don't think he does that. I think he listens to other your outside things. It's like, no, bro, feel your gut.
Hey, Chris, think about this. What if he had gone to the
Control
Knicks?
your own narrative.
What if he had gone to the Knicks? Knicks haven't won since 1972. Imagine now he's talking about his legacy, and he got mad because when he won at Golden State, it was it was Steph's team. If he had went to the Knicks and they won, you want to talk about his legacy? I don't know why he went to Brooklyn. He should have went right to Madison Square Garden.
Well, you know why? I feel like yes, I think he didn't want to go by himself, and Kyrie, I think, was a big factor in him going there because he, like I said, didn't want to go by himself. But I think obviously we know the Knicks are the Knicks, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a New York Knicks. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he wanted to deal with that. I just think he didn't want to deal with that.
Might be right.
I think when you're in Brooklyn, it's more low key. Yeah, they're a New York team, but you're not really focused on them. Nobody really talks about them. But when you're a Knick, regardless if we're good or bad, and we like this year, we've been really good. But Conn Man, we've had some really bad years. We are talked about 24/7, 365.
Absolutely.
And it's a different element. You feel it. Even if you say, I don't mind on Twitter and all that, you feel it. You just know it. Just the vibe. You walk out the city, if you Jalen Brunson, right? If you Jalen Brunson, well, he's taking a little criticism, but you Jalen Brunson, you good. But if Julius Randle last offseason, you're not so good. And just look how they treat Julius. Just imagine if that was Kevin Durant and all that. So I think he just didn't want that they say, the smoke, and didn't want to deal with that type of pressure. So you go to Brooklyn, not that much pressure and all that. But I mean, I'm not even biased. I think he made the wrong decision. He should have went to New York. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But you went to the team where if you win here, it is. Oh man, if the Knicks win the championship here,
what?
You're gonna see the fireworks from where you're at in Massachusetts. Like it's just gonna be a different. I've seen everyone win championships, all the parades. I watch it because I'm like, and I always say, and I always talk to whoever I'm like, if I'm talking hoop, I'm like, if the Knicks ever win I've been to the Yankees World Series parade, been to the Giants. Those were epic. If the Knicks win one, it'll double it, triple it. It'll be crazy. So I think he just needs to control his control. You are 7 foot. You can score at any comment. He can dribble the ball. He could shoot it. He could score at all three levels. He could dominate. But then there's times you're like, why 13 shots, 15 shots? No, you are like he said in that interview a few years back. You know who I am? I'm Kevin Durant.
Right?
Hey, Kevin Durant. Start acting like you're Kevin Durant. Start acting like that because you're worried about your legacy and all. Yeah, this is big because you left Golden State where you could have this. Yeah. You know what's crazy with that? The people say, this championship. But guess what? In 10, 20, 30 years, people ain't going to care. They're going to be like, Kevin Durant, man. He went to that Warriors team and they want to, they were winning championship, 3-peat, 4-peat, 5-peat. They're not going to care in 20 years. They're just going to look, he got 5 rings. Yeah, he had another great book. Guess what? You need great players. They don't say that about Magic and Kareem. They don't say that about, so it's like nobody's going to care in 20 years. They're just going to look at your rings and be, he got 5 or he got 4, whatever amount of rings he would have had if he would have stayed in Golden State because he would have won more. Because if he didn't get hurt, they would have won 3-peat. He worried about that, and ever since then, it's never been the same. And if they lose this series, I don't know if getting traded, but it'll look bad for him if he's like, I want out, because they'd be like, whoa, again, you
It's
want
going to
out?
be an ugly off season. I tell you that. It's going to be a
It could be a
very
really
ugly
bad
off
off
season.
season. It could be a really bad off season for them for sure.
Now, before we get to Eastern Conference, I want to make sure you get, we got a few minutes before we get your Knicks come on. I don't want take you away from your Knicks. But I just want to say, SGA is the real deal, Holyfield. He might be the MVP. I don't know. But
Yeah.
watching them the way they played last night, incredible, man. They got a youthful bunch. Chet is playing out of his mind. I like the way they play. I picked them at the beginning of the year to be, almost as good as they are right now. But SGA he's just on a different planet. He's on a different level. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, man. But the man he's just on a different level. He's smooth, so you can guarantee he's going to get 25. And yeah, he's just unbelievable. I don't know what else to say. I watch him and I'm like, how's he do what he does? But he does it.
You know what it is with him? He plays at his pace. He doesn't play out of his element.
Truth.
He doesn't jack up 3-pointers because that's not his game, right? He's like a low 30% 3-point shooter and all that. So he just plays his game. He's very relaxed. It's kind of like how you see Luka play basketball. Like, you don't get how they can get to their spots because they're not overly fast. They're not high flyers and all that.
No,
so they don't have that type of athleticism, but yet they could find their spots. He gets to the line a lot, and he just knows how to play. He's also a very clutch player too, but the way they built this team, I mean, they went through some bad years where but then they made a trade and all that. They believed in him. They thought this could be a guy who could be a piece, and little by little, Presti has put the right pieces around him, and 57 wins this year. Like, it's just been, it's been impressive and all that. And they have a true star, emerging superstar. I don't throw superstar around, a lot. To me, it's a guy's exclusive. Like, he's not there yet, superstar, but he's getting there. He's knocking. He's at the doorstep. He's just waiting to get checked in.
He's knocking.
He's knocking. He's waiting to get checked in ready to get into the VIP and all that. But they just built a great team around of guys lone guys. Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Chet. Another Jalen Williams. They even got. We forget they got Gordon Hayward, and I know he hasn't done anything, but that's good. He could come. He could be an important piece.
Absolutely.
In the next series where they need some wing depth, and he can spark, give them that off the bench and all that. So, like, they're just in a good spot, and they have a tremendous amount of picks. And if they want to make a massive move, they could. So, but yeah, they're just Pelicans. Just without Zion, they really don't have a shot.
Not good at all. I think they're going to definitely run away with this series. Now let's get back to the Eastern Conference because I want to make sure you watch your next game. I want to make sure Again, I want to thank you for coming on my show. Now, Eastern Conference, I'm going to run it down to you. I think Milwaukee's in a tough spot because if Giannis comes back or not, I mean, Lillard, I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up the way he's doing it. And for the most part, it seems like his game is in the first half. Second half, he kind of goes downhill a little bit. I think they might end up beating Indiana. I think they can get by Indiana. Indiana's they're up and down. Indiana likes to run. They're a very high scoring team. They haven't really been scoring stuff in the last game. Milwaukee kept them down below 100 points, I think, if I'm correct. But my guess is I'm going to go with Milwaukee. I'm going to go with Milwaukee. As far as Orlando and Cleveland, I'm going with Cleveland. I think Cleveland's got Mitchell's playing out of his mind. I think I'm going to roll with Cleveland on that one.
Yeah. They're just the more physical.
And then we got the Celtics in Miami. Unfortunately, Miami's down and out. Rozier got neck spasm, so he's not playing. I think he would have been a very crucial factor in them playing against the Celtics. And, of course, playoff Jimmy, he's out. So I'm going to give them a fighting chance. They're going to fight. They're well coached. They're going to fight. They're definitely going to fight. Those are my picks. Now, the Knicks and the 76ers. I saved the best for last for you, my brother. I think the Philadelphia had the opportunity to win both games. They didn't. And the fact is, Brunson has not been shooting very well, as you know, but he could be acting up tonight. I think he may act a fool tonight. I think he might. I think did you think he'd be this good?
No, no. I thought it'd be good. Like when we signed him, I was happy. Because I'm like, all right, we got a solid point guard, a guy who can, give us 19, 20 points a game and just be solid. Like maybe be like a borderline all-star type, but I was like solid. And that's what we just needed. I did not think 28 a game, all NBA, all-star. Maybe all-star, but like definitely not all NBA, 28 a game type of player and efficient too. That was not what I was thinking, So he's been above. He has played above and beyond my expectations and a lot of Knicks fans' expectations. So he's been impressive. Yeah, he struggled so far in this series, but he still hit some big shots for us, especially in that last game. All that. So he'll figure it out. The Sixers have played him well all season. I think he's probably. I think his lowest PBG is against the Sixers here. I think he's around like 21 a game against Sixers. So, they got Kelly Oubre. They got a couple guys, Lowry's a pest, that. So they've been able to have a few guys, give him some trouble. But I think he'll bounce back this game and, he'll have a more efficient game, So I think he has like the most, I think I saw a stat before where, he has one of the lowest, the lowest percentages shooting percentage of a guy who's taken more than like 50 shots in two games, so the deficiency is not there. But like I mentioned before, role players play great at home. We're lucky that our role players have stepped up. Dante's played good. Josh Hart, has been a menace. Hardenstein boxing out, getting the rebound on that last
Yeah.
Like we talk about box. I'm big on that off ball move. It's one of my podcast called Off the Ball because I'm big on off ball movements. I'm big on boxing out. All the little things to me add up, and that's how you win basketball games. So we did that, and that's why we won game 2 because we played hard. We did the little things, and Sixers didn't, and we capitalized off that. Sixers were up 6 with 40 seconds left. You in any form of basketball, you should have that game locked up. But guess what? They didn't do the little things, and that's why they're down 2-0 on 1. So we did that even with our best player having his 2 worst games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
His boys picked him up, and what you were supposed to do, your role player is supposed to step up, make big shots, and that's what they did. So that's why we're up 2-0.
What would it mean to you to have, which I think is going to happen, the Knicks versus the Celtics Eastern Conference Finals? What do you think that would be?
That would be. New York and Boston's a rivalry in itself, right?
From way back in the day.
Way back, it's just like we don't get along with people from Boston.
Nope.
Just like we don't get along with people from Philly, right? Philly and New York is a rivalry. We don't get along with them. We don't get along with Bostonians, whatever they're called. It's just an intense rivalry, and we haven't had a lot of playoff matchups like that, especially where it's the Knicks are maybe can compete with the Celtics. Because I know the Knicks beat them in when we in 2013 when we won 50 games of Melo and all that. But that they almost came back too. As we were up 3-0, they came back and lost in 6. But it's been obviously the Celtics. We know the history and all that, so it'll be a thing. Especially Boston, they're the favorites, right? They're the best team in the East. A lot of people think the Knicks are the best matchup for them. So if that's the matchup, hey, I'll take it. I'll just, that'll be great. Knicks have not been to the conference finals since they went to the finals in 99 when they played the Spurs. So it'll be a great moment. But we got to get through this series before we can think about Boston. And Boston got to take care of Miami first.
I know.
Going to the conference finals.
That's right. That's right. Now they're back in Miami. Now it could be a different ball game. And Rozier's coming back.
Hope. They give Miami hope. You don't give teams like that hope.
I know. And when Rozier's coming back, give me my but Rozier could be tough. Hey, I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad. I ain't gonna be mad at that at all. Chris, I want to thank you because I want to let you go back and watch the game. I'm gonna watch it myself because I talk smack anyway. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming on my show, It means the world to me. And again, I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity back in the day when you didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And now that the show, my show is going pretty well. And it's thanks to people like yourselves who come on my show. And it's not about me, it's about my guests and making them shine it and giving them their roses and their flowers. And that's the reason I really wanted you on, to give you your roses, give you your flowers, for taking the chance on someone that you had no idea who the hell I was. So I want to give you your props, my brothers. And folks, I want to again thank you guys for tuning in to my show, Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Radio Network. I want to thank my host, my man, Chris Jose LeBron. Check him out. And before we go, how can they get in touch with you, or how can they check out your show?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod on Twitter, X. You can follow the podcast and my network, Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network. We always do a bunch of shows and all that. And I do my own podcast where I'm talking hoop, or I'll do I'll do like mock drafts, like redrafts shows. I'll do player profiles on like old school player. Like I did one on Sebastian Telfair, kind of just letting people know how good he was in high school. I know people like negative side of Bassie, but I kind of bring out the positive, being a New Yorker and, how important he was for me growing up, so I do a show. So I'm starting to do more shows like that, so you can listen to Off the Ball podcast and all play. I do a Get a Bucket podcast. It's like a college basketball, high school grassroots show with my guy Kevin Lucas. You could check that out. I'm actually starting up a new podcast where I'm I try to put my try to eat in all type of positions. Try to put my hand in a bunch of spots and all. Doing a new show where we're gonna be focused on an NBA draft with my guy Corbin Ford. We're gonna be doing that soon. We're dropping our first episode next week. So excited about that. We'll be talking about the draft, hopefully getting some prospects on, talking to some scouts, coaches, or whoever, about the draft and all that. So we got that. So you could check that out. It'll be on the Off the Ball podcast platform. So you can check that out. But yeah, you can find me there. YouTube. Go follow the YouTube network.
Off the Ball. I had him on my show. He's one of the best of the best. Again, Chris, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, my brother. Hey, you were there for me, and I greatly appreciate it. Go Knicks! Y'all heard? Again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in to my show. Tomorrow we got my man Mike Myers II, the CEO of the NBA, which is the Military Basketball Association. He's the commissioner. We're going to be doing that tomorrow as well. But again, I want to thank Chris Jose LeBron. Check him out, y'all. He's one of the best. Y'all have a great night. Go Knicks. Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate you, man.
You got it.